Many college students do not get enough sleep. In fact, study shows that the average student sleeps less than 7 hours a night, which is not enough to stay healthy. Most of us probably feel that every morning when we wake up tired or drained before the day even starts. Sleep affects everything we do each day. It impacts how well we remember things, how we learn, how we feel, and even our physical health. Understanding how sleep actually works helps explain why so many students feel stressed, tired, or unfocused. As a college student myself, I deal with the same sleep problems as everybody else. I've had nights where I stay up too late studying or scrolling on my phone, and learning more about sleep has helped me understand why it affects me the way it does. Today, we're going to explain how sleep works and why college students struggle to get enough of it. We'll talk about what happens during the sleep cycle, what lack of sleep does to our bodies and brains, and why students don't get enough sleep in the first place, and some recent research that helps explain our current sleeping habits. So to understand why sleep matters, we first need to look at what actually happens when we fall asleep. When we sleep, our bodies move through cycles that last about 90 minutes. During each cycle, we pass through different stages, and this pattern repeats several times throughout the night. The first stage is light sleep. This is the point where your body starts to relax and your brain activity begins to slow down. In stage 2, your heart rate slows and your body temperature drops. This stage actually makes up most of the night. Stage 3 is deep sleep. This is the most important stage for your physical health because it's when your body repairs itself and strengthens your immune system. If you wake up during deep sleep, that's when you feel super groggy. After these stages, we move into REM sleep, which is when most dreaming happens. Even though the body is resting, the brain becomes very active. REM sleep is important for memory, learning, and emotional health. All of this is controlled by something called the circadian rhythm, which is basically your internal clock. It helps your body know when to feel awake and when to feel tired. The problem is that light from our phones and laptops can confuse this clock, making it harder to fall asleep or stay asleep. Each stage of the sleep cycle matters. Deep sleep helps with growth and physical recovery, while REM sleep helps with focus and emotional balance. When we miss out on these stages, we don't function as well the next day. Now that we understand how sleep works, Noah will talk about what happens when students don't get enough sleep.
Hello everyone, I will go over what happens when you don't sleep well. First off, deep sleep and REM sleep are the two main areas that affect our mood and our physical and mental health and regulates it to begin with. And if you miss out on these two steps, you're gonna experience it in the morning and throughout the day. Let's start with the emotional side. Not sleeping can cause many negative emotions like stress, anger, and just more irritability towards anything and everything, even if it's minor. A quote by a study done earlier this year says that mood swings and heightened reactivity to minor situations contributes to anxiety and poor coping mechanisms. And quote by Hyden's 2025, pretty much showing that there is a direct connection to this in the long run, especially emotional dysfunction and fatigue with energy. With the physical side, you will notice that it's going to take longer to heal if you don't sleep for longer. As well as you're going to notice your energy also fatiguing and your body just not being able to keep up. Another thing is that a study was done that leads to hormones also being an effect of this. And I quote, the hormone stimulates the hunger, and a decreased saturation hormone leptin will lead to wanting to intake more food while having a fatigue. And the study was done by Perpetual back in 2022. Both are showing how not sleeping can just make your life a little more miserable. Several studies also support the fact that your physical and mental reaction time will slow down over the course that you don't sleep. Granted, you might not notice it for the first 12 hours, but it has been proven for over 24 plus hours up to on off for 6 weeks that it can affect you. The results in studies will speak for themselves about these numbers more than anything I can explain, but now it's time for Sophie to speak about why college students tend to stay up and sleep less.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm going to be doing my section on why college students lack sleep. One of these reasons is the academic workload of college. Oftentimes, college students really do have a very heavy workload, and this can be, difficult for many to adjust to when coming from high school. The work class schedule is definitely a bit less rigorous, I would say. Oftentimes having fewer class sessions mean that the class time is, really jam-packed with information. The students are left with lots of homework to do because class time really isn't spent going over those assignments. It's more so spent on progressing their learning. A lot of college classes also sometimes be attendance optional, and that means that the grade isn't based on whether or not you show up, but it's based on your whether or not you do the assignments. So again, if you don't have to go to class and you're not being reminded about assignments, it can really pile up and affect your workload very heavily. Another reason is technology or phone usage at night. Many people do opt to wind down in front of a screen, I think, regardless of age. I think in our digital age, a lot of people choose, maybe we're watching TV, looking at our phone a little bit before we go to bed. However, college students, oftentimes their phone and screen usage is more so that it's more so geared towards school. A lot of us are doing our homework at night, last minute, assignments are due at midnight. We're trying to cram and get all this stuff in before midnight. So that again gears us to work a little bit later. One article from Nevada Today stated that the basic thrust is that the best times of day for learning for college-age students are later than standard class hour begins. So even in the first place, we're already wanting to do our work later, and then again, a lot of things are pushing us towards that. Another reason is social life and late night activities. Not only is college about, focusing on school and studying, but a lot of it is about kind of discovering who you are as a person. There's different, clubs, activities, Greek life, working. A lot of college students work, and again, a lot of this stuff does happen at night. And this again, lots of students sometimes can prioritize these things over schoolwork. So, we're trying to have like a really good experience in college, and we're also trying to academically succeed, and it can all really just take a toll on your schedule. And then another reason is irregular schedules. Again, most college students have the privilege of making their own school schedule. Sometimes they'll take an 8 a.m. because they think like, oh, I got to school at 8 a.m. every single day for the past 12 years for high school, and it just doesn't work. Or they take a night class, and it's maybe not always the best idea. And you could also, your classes can be spread out a lot throughout the day. However, you could, be going for a large brick of hours, even though you're not necessarily in class for all of those hours, just because sometimes breaks can be too short to go home. Maybe you're working on schoolwork for other classes in between classes, and these irregular schedules can also really just exhaust students and push them a bit to stay up later. One chart that I have states that, it's related to sleep duration and academic performance, and it shows that, the less a student is sleeping, the worse their grade point average is. So again, there's really not a lot of benefits to staying up late at night and trying to cram before an essay or, whatever.
Hi everyone, my name is Ava Froyo, and I'll be talking about recent scientific research on sleep. Studies on blue light and melatonin. My research shows that many students use screens late at night, and research consistently shows that nighttime screen exposure delays sleep and reduces sleep quality. This matters because students in recent studies already struggle to meet recommended sleep levels, and nighttime screen habits are one of the major contributors. My research on naps include that college students show that most students nap at least once over a few days. Average naps were around an hour long and were used mainly to make up for short nighttime sleep. While naps helped improve alertness, they weren't enough to fix regular nighttime sleep loss. Sleep debt and how long it takes to recover. Studies on student sleep patterns show that many students accumulate sleep debt by consistently sleeping fewer hours than recommended. This lack of nightly sleep impacts focus, learning, and grades. One night of catch-up sleep does not fully counter these effects. Comparing sleep patterns of students versus adults. So college students have an average about 6.5 hours of sleep, noticeably less than typical adults. Students who get less than 6 hours perform worse academically, showing a clear link between shorter sleep, and poorer outcomes. Why sleep matters. Overall, sleep matters because it affects learning, mood, memory, and overall health. Based on my research, students often use screens late, which contributes to delayed or reduced sleep. Naps help temporarily, but don't replace good nighttime sleep. Sleep debt builds up when students sleep too little, and it takes more than one night to recover. Students sleep less than adults, and too little sleep is linked to lower academic performance. A fact from my research includes that students sleeping under 6 hours had significantly lower GPAs. Thank you.